Good evening. Welcome to the September 10th, 2018 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Liv Cook, will you please lead us in the flag salute tonight?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Liv. All right, on to our inspirational comment. Mrs. Bradford.
17 years ago, this night was the last happy night for thousands of families. Most of us were probably comfortable in our beds, with our families too. But when we woke up the next morning, it was to a world that is forever changed.
So I think it's only fitting then that we bring our ceremony to a close with one of Aaron Copland's most enduring and life-affirming pieces, Fanfare for the Common Man.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Bradford. I think it was quite fitting. Okay, on to reports from closed session. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. The board voted with a 4-0 vote, with trustee Mendez being absent tonight, to appoint Olga Alvarez as the next principal of Rivercrest Academy. If you would stand, Olga. Thank you.
Congratulations, Olga. Okay, on to item number 1, welcome. A, introduce candidates for November 6, 2018 governing board election. Mr. Duchamp.
Thank you, Mr. President. District has a long history of introducing candidates for the Board of Education at board meetings prior to each election. Trustee Bradford is running unopposed in Trustee Area 3 and will not appear on the November 6th ballot. In Trustee Area 1, Robert Garcia is incumbent and Tara Fogliasso is running also. You may stand and let us know who you are. Thank you. In Trustee Area 5, Don Brewer and Melissa Regal. Thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duchamp. Item 1B, 2018-2019 student board members. Mr. Duchamp.
Thank you. Once again, welcome. Good to see you all here. Hope your year is going smoothly so far. Straight A's, right? You don't have to say, really. So we'll start with Jurupa Valley High School, Camille Hermosillo, if you would start.
Good evening. This past Friday at JVHS, we just recently celebrated our 30th year anniversary of the school's opening on September 7th, 1999. We also memorialized and recognized 5 of the staff members, Coach Kumi, Coach Dodd, Mrs. Taylor, Coach Guard, and Ms. Dahl, who have been a part of JVHS since its opening. Currently, our JAG Nation Committee and our school administration are working on assemblies for 9th to 12th graders to enable them to recognize practices that may be limiting their learning. The goal of these assemblies are for students to address and fix unhealthy habits that may be limiting their learning success and to provide strategies to strengthen and balance their academic life. For example, being less dependent on the cell phones, being on time, and organizing on a planner. With that said, these assemblies will also promote growth mindset practices. As one of our JUC pillars encourage, these assemblies will serve to encourage students to challenge them and reach continuous achievements. These assemblies are scheduled for October 6th and 17th. In regard to athletics, we congratulate our athletes of the month, senior Leo Pena in boys water polo and senior Catherine Orozco in girls volleyball. Both students were recognized for their exceptional leadership in the classroom and dedication to the team. We also congratulate Coach Kumi, who has been selected by the CIF Southern Section as an MVP Athletic Director for his contributions to JVHS for the 2017 to 2000 school year. This upcoming September 19th, the Jags from Spanish Club and We Volunteer Club will be hosting a group of Argentinian students for half of the day, touring the campus and learning what a regular school day looks like at JVHS. The Hall of Fame ceremony will take place September 27th at the JVHS Library at 6 p.m. We will be recognizing Diane Pine, Nate Haas, Will Murray, and Veronica Cepeda Cashman. They will also be recognized prior to the start of the homecoming game on September 28th. On the topic, the Jaguars are preparing posters and rally events for the Jagcation Luau Homecoming Dance and game on September 28th. This concludes today's report for JVHS. Thank you.
From Patriot High School, Jedi Hernandez. Welcome.
In the month of September, Patriot High School has many great activities and events planned. The fall sports are in full swing, and we have gotten lots of student support at athletic events. We will be having our annual fall blood drive on Tuesday, September 25th. We have our Stranger Things rally themed on Friday, September 21st during school, followed by our homecoming football game that evening at 7 p.m. Our homecoming dance will take place on Saturday, September 22nd from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the school gym. The State of Jurupa Valley address will be held in our theater on September 25th, and we are pleased to announce that our choir has been invited to go to New York to perform at the Carnegie Hall. Finally, on September 12th, a model beam of the Twin Towers will be placed on display in front of our library as a remembrance to the lives lost on 9/11.
Thank you very much. And representing Rubidoux High School is Oscar Flores. Welcome, Oscar.
Good afternoon. My name is Oscar Flores, and I'll be filling in for the Rubidoux High School representative. At Rubidoux, we have had a very busy month back from summer break. All the recent activities and events have been really exciting. Friday night lights have started, and we have been really occupied with all our sports. Recently, football has played against Patriot and Notre Dame. Both teams putting in great effort. Volleyball has had a great preseason moving on to their actual season. Varsity volleyball won a league game against Vista del Lago. They are also having a game today against Colton High School. Good luck to them. Another exciting moment was when Kevin Ramos, a senior, raced against some of California's top runners, surpassing a 35-year-old record when running in 14 minutes and 48 seconds. The class of 2019 has their senior sunrise this Friday. It is time to make memories and enjoy our last few moments together. This week was initiative to our homecoming week. Falcons began showing their spirit towards our homecoming game and rally this Friday. Our homecoming dance will be on Saturday. The theme is for this year's homecoming is Marvelous Falcons, where Falcons can show off their super intelligent powers in school, meanwhile showcasing their love for the marble. Our staff has always been really great on safety and precautions. That is precisely why we are performing drills on the next Wednesdays. Throughout everything, it is very clear at Rubidoux that safety and education always comes prior to anything else. That is the conclusion of today's report.
Thank you very much. All right, on to number 2, recognition. First one, item 2A, recognize Jurupa Valley High School Race to Summit Award. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Research shows us that when students complete their free application for a federal student aid or FAFSA submission and realize that they have guaranteed funds available to them, they're much more likely to attend and complete college. So in that vein, the Race to Submit, hosted by Riverside County Office of Education, challenged high schools in Riverside County to increase their submission rates and help students discover the financial aid available to them. Jurupa Valley High School had 328 students submit the FAFSA this last year, an 84% senior completion rate, which earned them countywide accolades. And in addition to that, because they were one of the top 35 schools in the state, they will be honored at a banquet with the governor on October 4th. So congratulations to JVHS, who won the Race to Submit award once again.
Congratulations to Jurupa Valley. Great accomplishment there. Number 3, 2B, recognize receipt of Lois B. Krieger, sorry. Glasses aren't working too good this morning. Lois B. Krieger Water Projects Grant for Educators. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The Western Municipal Water District offers educators in Western Riverside County the opportunity to apply for grants that help them implement water-related lessons in the classroom. We were recently notified that Dina Palagi from Pedley Elementary School has received a grant for $353 for her project.
Thank you. 2C, recognize funding for Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Improvement Act of 2006. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. We were recently notified by the CDE that funding for the Carl D. Perkins Career Technical Education Act grant has been awarded again this year in the amount of $171,933.
Thank you. 2D, recognize receipt of grant, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Title II, Adult Education and Family Literacy Act. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. CDE also recently notified us that funding for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act has been awarded again this year in the amount of $180,956.
Thank you. And finally, 2E, recognize Jurupa Valley High and Rubidoux High Athletic Directors. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. And I think Mr. Kumamoto and Mr. Luna are here. If you could please stand. Recently, we received words that Paul Kumamoto, Jurupa Valley High School Athletic Director, and Ed Luna, Rubidoux High School Athletic Director, were recently recognized by the CIF Southern Section Office for achieving MVP Athletic Director status for the 2017-18 school year. Of the 600 schools and over 800 athletic directors, 27 ADs received this award for the 17-18 school year. They are both outstanding leaders and excellent examples of educators who make a positive impact on our student athletes. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you both, and we appreciate all your efforts and commitment to our students and our student athletes. Thank you. On to board member comments. Why don't we start with you, Mrs. Chard?
I want to welcome everyone here tonight and congratulate our student board members for outstanding presentations. You always give us a lot of information. Too bad we can't all attend all of them. I know we try to attend some of your activities. I hope your year goes really well this year. I also want to congratulate both of our coaches, Coach Kumamoto and Coach Luna. They've been in our district a long time, and they for bringing that kind of a honor to our district. That just goes to show that our coaches, our teachers, our staff really work with the kids, and the kids understand what athletics mean to them and the sports programs, and that really helps our kids when they try to get into colleges, as they're going in life, you know, when they have idols like these people to look up to get them where they want to go. Thank you for being with us and staying with us. I have several things that we've attended, but I think I'll talk about those later in the meeting because we have a long meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. Mrs. Bradford.
Welcome again to our student board members. I'm really proud of you, and I want you to feel welcome and encouraged in whatever you want to learn by being on the board this year, okay? Okay. And Mr. Dubrovsky, would you please tell Mrs. Pelagi that I'm delighted at the grant, and that I knew Mrs. Krieger and how important water education for our students was to her.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you. I'd also like to report a couple of weekends ago, Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes hosted a emergency preparedness seminar, which I want you to know that our schools have already thought, our district has already considered these things, and Mrs. Ford was able to answer a question about our preparation. Let me see, Mr. Garcia, Mrs. Chard, and I were there. Let's see, what else? Oh, I wanted to let you know I'm going to be out for a couple of months. I'm having eye surgery, and I didn't want you to think I'm flaking out on not being here, but it's going to take an extended recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Ms. Ortega.
Thank you. Hope all goes well, Ms. Bradford. Of course. I just have a few things to share. FAFSA recognition, it just touches my heart deeply because I was the first in my family to go to college, and I think if it weren't for FAFSA, like a lot of our students, I wouldn't have an opportunity. So I thank all the teachers, all the students for applying and really making it a challenge. I think that's a beautiful thing. So kudos to Jurupa Valley High School for winning that again. And also congrats to Mr. Kumamoto and Coach Luna for, you know, having that sport and that spirit of sports. I think also a lot of our students are driven to come back to school and you know, enhance that education that they have because they have something to look forward after, which is sports after school. So thank you for all your dedication. That's wonderful. And also the recognition for our CTE. I think, you know, we're having more conversations on career technical education. And I haven't been afraid to also have those conversations in the higher education level, and because of it, I recently got invited to be a keynote speaker in RCC for a conference only for women, young women, to invite them and to encourage them to seek these opportunities that, you know, men take these career opportunities, and from them to hear from my experience and from a young woman, I think is such an honor, and especially down the street from us, our neighbor, RCC. So I'm very honored to do that keynote speaking for them. And yeah, we'll keep the rest for then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega, and congratulations, by the way, on that keynote. I mean, you certainly are a role model for our students, especially our young women here in the district, and we look forward to hearing about that when you get back. And I also wanted to comment on the FAFSA. I know Dr. Arax in the back, he's got an effort over at Rubidoux, and I'm sure Patriot does as well. It's important, not just, if you can't afford it. I mean, some kids, we're at the edge. Parents can afford it, but really can't necessarily afford to put that money down. So having a FAFSA application gives your students the opportunity to get a loan from the school and not necessarily have to get a government subsidized loan. So it's really helpful, really important for your colleagues there, student board members. And I'd also like to comment on the disaster awareness that Mrs. Bradford mentioned, and I think she touched on this a little bit, but there were some questions from the audience as far as, what's the school doing and what does each school do? And it's a good idea if I know what's happening at Stone or Indian Hills or Jurupa Valley. And so I talked to Mrs. Ford, and maybe next year we can look into doing something like that, maybe being part of that disaster awareness training so that those questions could be out there for. And a lot of the questions have to be answered afterwards, but at least we have someone from the school district there putting on a presentation and being able to answer those questions. Because parents are concerned these days, everybody knows, and we do a great job here at the district. With safety and security, it's a top priority, but, questions need to be answered sometimes, and we at least need to make sure that parents feel good about sending their kids to school. I had an opportunity with the board. We were at Del Sol at the end of last month with a grand opening. That was a beautiful ceremony. We had quite a few people come to that. Really beautiful. We had Gordon Bourne from Bourne's Engineering was actually there, and two keynote speakers from the UCR and the CBU Bourne's Engineering School were there, so that was quite an event. Congratulations to Olga. We look forward to your success over at Rivercrest. Just know that the board has every confidence in your abilities there, and we look forward to you doing a great job. And finally, to try to pick up from the student school board members a couple of things, or at least one thing that you mentioned. And for Jurupa Valley, it was the Argentine students. Looking forward to hearing about that the next time you come back, Camille. And the beam, I'd like to try to make that, see if I can get there on Wednesday. And the runner that broke the record, that's pretty awesome. I'd like to find out more about that. So I think that's all I have for tonight. And we'll move on to public verbal comments. Okay, first one here. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. It's Eva something de Dios. Sorry about that, Eva. All right. Come on up. Yeah, come on up. So we get 3 minutes, and then like around the 2.5 minute mark, we'll just kind of, this chart here will just say, got 30 seconds, and we're not going to cut you off at 3 minutes. We'll give you some time to wrap it up.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Is it okay if I?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eva Guardado de Diaz, and I'm a concerned parent. And the reason that I'm here is because my daughter, she's attending Stone Avenue Elementary, and she's part of the dual immersion program. She's currently in 6th grade. And at this point, it's early in the school year, and she was in one class where it was a small class size. I believe maybe around 20 or a little bit above that. But now it's a combination of having 2 classes because there's no teachers that are going to be teaching in that particular program. So there's only one at Stone Avenue for the 6th grade level. And my concerns as a parent is having assistance for them in the classroom. From what I understand right now, there's only one teacher assistant that goes in there for about 70 minutes for the whole day. And like I said, there are students which need somewhat more attention as far as learning and retaining. And the reason that I'm here is to speak out about, to see if it's possible to continue having that assistance longer than 70 minutes. And this is because personally myself, when I attended school, I was also an English and Spanish learner, and my primary language is Spanish. So having somebody in the classroom working with me and the different types of subjects that are being taught through the day really helped me and really reassured me and gave me confidence to be more focused, to learn and to retain. So as part of that, I think that they should continue to have that provided for them, at least more assistance during the day, if that's the case. So like I said, I know it is challenging for one teacher to have so many students, especially when they're learning two languages. So learning Spanish is one thing and learning English, which is our goal as parents, to have our children to be bilingual so that in the future they can have better, jobs, better possibilities to have a better lifestyle. So to me, like I said, personally, I would appreciate it if everybody can do what's right for the kids, basically. That's what it comes down to me.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, and everybody have a good evening.
Eva, I have a quick question. So
Sure,
how
go
many
ahead.
students are in the class?
I'm not quite sure for right now, but I believe it's over 30 or 32. And so it's a big classroom, so it's a lot of other things that we're here for. Not just myself, but there are other parents too that have a big concern regarding to that too.
Mr. Dabrowski, so how's the structure on dual immersion? I know there's a K through 3, there's a certain amount of students, and then, once you get to 4 through 6, there's some combination.
The maximum class size at the 4 through 6 level is 34 students. So none of our classes can go over 34. And so in doing that, we design a certain amount of a student limit at the K3 level, so that intended that we would have that one 34 size classroom by the time students go to 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Okay, so it's just like I said.
Yeah, I understand. I just kind of wanted to get that clarification.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Eva. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next one I have here is Mary Jane Ashley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here wondering if we can put on the agenda the Ag Academy at Jurupa Valley High School. I understand that there's classes for freshmen for biology, sophomore for chemistry, soil science, but there is nothing for juniors and seniors.
Mr. Dabrowski would be happy to meet with you and go over that, and then if
Okay.
you had an item you still wanted on the agenda, he could work with you on that.
Okay,
So if you give him a number and a contact, he'd be happy to talk with you
Sure.
about that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Okay, next I have Esperanza.
Good evening, board members. My name is Esperanza. I've been into this community for a very long time. My 3 girls have attended Stone Avenue Elementary. It's been 15 years or more. They've all graduated, 2 of them already graduated from 6th grade from there. Like the other mom said, our concern is the DI program because, yes, it's 34 kids, 1 teacher, that's kind of the ratio, but now they're learning 2 languages, which is a little bit, I think, more frustrating and harder for them. Also, my concern is the safety, having so many kids with 1 teacher on the 2nd floor. Earthquake, nowadays shootings, with 1 teacher, 1 door, 1 way out. How is that possible to work? Also, my daughter had a doctor's note to use the elevator. She has not given that right to use the elevator. It's been already a week. There's nothing has been done. I don't know if the elevator was just made for looks or what, but she has told me that she has not used the elevator. The principal or whoever's in charge of that has not given her the right to do so, even though she has a doctor's note. So like I said, and from all our parents back there too, it's just the concern of our kids falling behind on 6th grade, which they're going to middle school, a very big change as it is, and with 2 languages. Now they're struggling in math very much because now they're talking English to them in math, which before it was only Spanish. And now they're so confused, they're having a very hard time. And I don't think they're getting the extra help as it was with 2 teachers. It was more, they were focused a little bit more on smaller groups, their kids. Now it's a huge number. They don't get back to them when they say they can. And it's not the teacher's fault, it's just, I guess, the district fault for putting all those kids into the one teacher and not being able to focus more on them as individuals.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Again, as I mentioned to the last person, first of all, we'll check about the elevator. It is operable, and it should be, as far as I know. Second of all, Mr. Dabrowski will be happy to meet with any parents regarding those classrooms. Just as a point of information, dual immersion is generally loaded except at the very lower levels at the same loading as all of our classes. We've been doing it for Mrs. Gomez about 11 years, 12 years now. So it's typically loaded at all 3 schools at the classroom ratios. There are systems of supports for all of our classrooms, and Mr. Dabrowski could go over that are far beyond the 70 minutes. So if you'd like to talk with him, please let him know.
Thank you, Esperanza. Okay, next one, Paul Vasquez.
So good evening. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. So I want to echo some of the sentiment of my fellow parents. We're talking about the changes with dual immersion at 6th grade with Stone Avenue. So myself, being a parent and having had my student in this program for 6 years, it's very important that she gets the proper instructional support. The seal for biliteracy, which was recognized by the state, is very important to me. Her as a 6th grader, not as important to her yet, but hopefully in her future she'll understand the importance of that. So the exact change was going from, as concerning my daughter, the classroom size was 17 to a current ratio of 34 students. And I understand the model of 6th grade can have a capacity of 34 students. What I'm not familiar with, and maybe we could put out there, is what is the minimum criteria in order to support a class size. Based off the past 6 years precedents, we've never had a classroom size that was greater than 24 students, even when we were loading the first grade levels 1 through 3. So based off those past precedents, I think there's a familiarity and a cadence that our students are familiar with that one-on-one interaction and having the 2 different teachers, one for English, one for Spanish. So as a parent of the DI program, I, along with many other parents, have the concerns with the class size, the abrupt change. The school year's already begun. We're now 4 weeks into the school year, and now this decision was made. Not to necessarily give the message that it would be acceptable prior to the year, but I think it would probably be a lot less resistance. So having done so abruptly, my daughter, as well as many other students, have felt a personal effect. Having built relationships, having had some demonstrated success already this year, losing that teacher was very influential to her. So much so that it's made a very tough transition for my daughter and other students this past week or so. Just recently, this past week, on Friday, my daughter brought to me some concerns that, as a whole, the teachers had to discipline and take away and have various forms of punishment because they've had a lot of challenges with kind of corralling the students because of the larger class size. So, however, the dynamics is currently an issue and a challenge that, as a parent, definitely concerns me. So, when I, along with other parents, committed to this program 6 years ago, every parent here and every student has been with the program 6 to 5 years. Even what we would consider the late starters started in 1st grade, so they've been with us 5 years. We all committed to this. Every year we sign a commitment agreeing to do our part as parents to support the program, to support the meetings here at the district for the language services, support all the meetings with the school and the teachers. And as part of that, what was sold to us as part of the benefits of being a part of dual immersion was the smaller class sizes. Again, no specifics. We understood the commitment that Ms. Santos Lee probably gave us prior. But again, precedents, we haven't seen that up until this year. We agree that the 6th year or 6th grade is a very influential year, now transitioning into middle school, into high school. So we'd like to see that continued progress that we've seen the first 6 years of their education continued. Dual immersion as a student requires additional support. For me personally, because my daughter doesn't speak Spanish at home, this is the only opportunity for her to get exposure to her second language in order for her to flourish. So she's been very dependent on that one-on-one interaction that a second teacher has been able to have. It means additional resources during their breaks, during lunch, and then of course after school. What I'm asking basically is for the board to reconsider, based off of the negative impacts and some of the influence that the parents have shared with you today, the decision in removing that teacher. At a minimum, look at the balancing or at least the student-to-teacher ratio that all the other dual immersion 6th grade classes and schools are demonstrating, just so that there's a little bit more balance. Hopefully in trying to look at the future. When I look at, Stone and even the district modeling what the district and what the schools represent, some of the highlighted programs, dual immersion is always one of the things that's there at the top, as highlighted as a benefit on why we should come to Jurupa, why you should be a part of Stone, and why you should participate in that program, because it is something that is beneficial and it is a benefit to our students. Last thing I'd like to say is that, I'm very concerned also because of the disappointment of how this decision was made, how abrupt it was. Now we're looking to lose parents and students to other districts, something I definitely want to happen. I've spent 6 years with all of these individuals at a minimum, or 5 years. They've built a lot of these relationships that we had hoped would carry on again to middle school and high school. So I'd be sad to see a lot of those parents leave, but also I think the negative impacts to the district and to the school, and the negative portrayal it would give to dual immersion would be not beneficial. So.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you.
And as just want to agree with you that our dual immersion program it's really a great program, one of the best in Southern California. And appreciate all your parents' commitment to that. It is a commitment, and we appreciate that. And as Mr. Duchamp mentioned, Mr. Dabrowski can certainly work with you and at least talk you through some of those decisions and look at some of the past practice. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add, well, it appears to be an abrupt decision. Every year after the 20th day of school, we assess the numbers of children at every single school in the district, and we rebalance teachers because we don't know necessarily where students are going to show up. So it is an annual process. We recognize that it causes hardship and strife, but we can't hire and put teachers exactly where the students come out. We hit it pretty close. I think we had a minimal transfer of teachers within the district and some positively unanticipated growth, but Mr. Dabrowski would be happy to go over the process with you.
Okay. All right. Next one, Amber Dano. I pronounced that correctly?
Yes. Usually everybody says Dano. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amber Dano. I have some concerns about transportation and safety issues. I have a problem. My daughter does not have a safe path to travel to the school bus. There are vicious dogs on the path that she travels going to the bus stop. The person that walks her to the bus stop has already gotten bitten, and the day after she almost got attacked by a little dog. And as of today, the two of them, which the person who walks her to school or walks her to the bus stop, and my daughter and my husband had almost got attacked by 2 dogs on the same street. We have reported the incidents to animal control, and I have called the district and spoke with transportation 3 different times. They told me there's nothing they could do because it wasn't at the bus stop, and I told them it's happening on the same block as the bus stop. My daughter is scared to walk to the bus stop, and I told her if the gate is open or the dogs are outside, not to go to school, to go back home. This will affect her grades, but her safety is more important, and she has no other transportation. We are asking to have you guys make accommodations for her because it is not safe for her to go that way to the bus stop. Also, my husband had gotten into an argument with one of the people today, and I fear for the person who walks her to the bus stop and my daughter that they might mess with them because they know that we're reporting them to the animal control, and we have already spoken to the police too. The bus stop is at Home and Man Avenue, and we live right off of Etowanda. And I'm asking if you guys can maybe have the bus pick her up at Etowanda so she doesn't have to pass. It's 2 different houses.
So the street was Home?
It's Homes and Man Avenue.
Homes.
Homes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well,
If you
go
can
ahead.
speak again with Mrs. Ford, who's in charge of transportation, we also can contact animal control and find out what we can do about having those persons cited and the dogs removed from whatever they're doing.
Okay, and there's nothing else you can do because as of now, I'm not
I-
going to send my daughter to school if the gate is open.
Without having Mrs. Ford sit down with you, go over the route, we can't, it would be impossible to do that right here, right now.
You could leave Mrs. Ford
But she'll
your
work
number.
with you and let you know what we can do.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dano. Okay. All right. Last speaker card I have here is Sylvia.
What is the one common thing that these people that spoke before me have? Kids. These are their kids. These are their concerns. Ron Garcia called me this weekend and asked me if I would speak on the same concern at Stone Avenue, and this is something that happens every year. Teachers are placed, students are placed, they get to know their teachers, they have open house, and then the teachers are pulled. I was told that these 2 teachers did not want to leave Stone Avenue. They're well-known teachers, the well-liked teachers, and this is affecting kids. Kids, which is why we are all here. I'm sure these parents behind me had a lot of things they could do tonight other than come to this meeting, but their kids are that important to them. So I ask that you reconsider the decision that was made to pull these 2 teachers. You knew well in advance that Del Sol was going to open this year, that there was going to be needed so many teachers. What you didn't know was that there was going to be more classrooms added. That is no fault to these teachers or to these students. That should not be their problem. And if they're being affected by this, it is your job, because you are here for the kids, to make sure that you accommodate the parents as they have asked.
Thank you, Sylvia. No more speaker cards. Anybody else would like to address the board at this time? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, item number 5, administrative reports and written communications. 5A, California Standards LCAP Implementation Report. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Do you know where the clicker is? Okay, I'll just go like that. Okay. All right, so I know at times I say I have exciting things to talk about, but tonight I have something super exciting to talk to you about, and I'm really excited to share this information with you. But going back to give a little bit of the background, a few decades ago, we implemented a program with guidance coordinators at our high schools, which was a unique program at that time that allowed our guidance coordinators to work with the whole student, meaning more than just academic counseling, but also social emotional counseling, doing discipline, doing everything that had to do with student life on that campus, and it allowed a deep connection between our guidance coordinators and their students. It also allowed for us, we had a little bit of a smaller case size than what many counselors have been at other high schools. Over time, things have changed, and more recently, as the A through G and college and career readiness has become such a focus, it's become a bit of a liability for us, because what we need is our students to receive quality academic counseling to prepare them academically for the next steps, whether it's college, whether it's career, the military. And so the daily life of our guidance coordinators becomes so varied and spontaneous because discipline happens at the drop of a hat, and maybe there's something that needs to be investigated right now, and so it's inhibited their ability, despite their best efforts, to provide enough of that academic counseling. And we have identified that as a huge change that we wanted to see in order to help improve our A through G completion rate amongst our students, so that they have options and choices as they graduate high school. As you know, our graduation rate has become something we're very proud of, and now we're looking to make our A through G completion rate something we're very proud of as well. And we've put in several things in place. Our college and career readiness department with Mrs. Pace. We've added career center counselors to each of our high schools to provide more counseling and more information. And last year we set about in earnest to try and make a change to the model of counseling that we have for our students. And so I'm excited to explain that change to you today and talk about the possibilities. So what we did to create this change was hire an additional assistant principal at each of our 3 high schools who work in a new department called Student Management and Accountability, sort of the artist formerly known as Discipline. We took the guidance coordinator faculty, and at one of those guidance coordinators now works in that department for student management and accountability, and the others work in academic counseling. So what that has done is taken the job of discipline, the job of responding to events, the job of investigating, the job of assigning consequences, and removed it from the academic counselor's plate, thereby giving them the time to provide quality academic counseling and guidance and social emotional support to our students to improve their outcomes and have them be more prepared for the future. So a side benefit to that, as we talk about student discipline and as we talk about student behavior and you hear about PBIS, this will provide a very consistent, fair, and firm system of discipline or student management at our 3 high schools, in addition to vastly increasing the availability of academic counseling for our students. So we are super excited about this change. Our academic counselors have been meeting and going through some training and talking about best practices, along with our Career Center counselors, and our student management and accountability team has been meeting and talking about best practices and best ways to improve student behavior. And we're already seeing a great deal of shifts and increase in those types of behaviors that we really want to see for our students. And if you look at that one handout I provided you with that has the first page is a letter that went home to parents. That letter just explained to parents the shift and the change and how their students' guidance coordinator may have changed, and how that will affect students. And then the following pages, I just wanted to give you a little flavor of a meeting that the Patriot High School guidance coordinator team had with parents called Coffee with Counselors. And this is something that they wouldn't have been able to do under the constraints of the old system, but they're doing it now. And if you look at the slides and the information that was presented, it's super exciting. Going to page 2, they talked about Parent Connect, our online system for parents to get access to information about their students and about their health information, their discipline information, their academic information, their grades. The next slide talked about tutoring opportunities and gave parents all the information they need to allow their students to seek help to improve their grades. After that, they talked about goals after high school and what students need to be thinking about, whether it's enrolling in college, whether it's enrolling in a vocational or certificate training program, whether it's enlisting in the military or entering the world of work, and the things that need to happen now for students to be able to do those things successfully. Then they talked about the graduation requirements and the different things students need to be able to do to graduate, the A through G, UC, CSU, university entrance requirements, and what classes students need to take with a C or better to make sure that they are eligible to go to the college of their choice. They talked about our advanced placement options, the courses available for students at Patriot High School. They talked about the different pathways, talked about how parents can get involved, and then finally talked about californiacolleges.edu, which is a wonderful partnership we have with California colleges. It has a whole web system that talks about student interest and vocational training and gives students information about what they need to do, both from a what career might be best for me to a what do I need to do to apply for funds to what courses do I need to take if this is the area I want to go in and what colleges should I look towards. So there's a wealth of information out there, and now our counselors are going to be really at the forefront of providing that information to students, to parents, and really providing a quality foundation for our students as they prepare to enter post-high school world. And we believe that with this effort, we will see a strong increase in our A through G completion rate on our high schools, and also students just being prepared and ready for the next steps. So that was what I wanted to talk to you about tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Any questions, comments?
I think it looks exciting. Yeah, I think it looks good.
Thank you. This is really exciting. I'm just thinking about our Spanish population, if this would be available to our Spanish-speaking parents, students.
Oh, that is a good question. I don't have the answer I assume the answer is yes, but I will have to do some research. This just came across my desk yesterday, and I thought, ooh, I have to add this because the board is going to love this. So I will find that out and report back to you.
I like the way they put out, the little information sheets to get the kids interested in it and to bring them to it rather than just do it as a public announcement.
Absolutely. And while I happen to single out Patriots' efforts because it happened to come across my desk, these types of efforts are happening at Rubidoux and at Jurupa Valley, and those teams are meeting together as a district to brainstorm best practices across the district.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski, for the presentation. I think making some progress there, and we really appreciate and we like what you did here. Thank your team for all that. So thank you. All right, 5B, publicized tentative agreement with NEA Jurupa. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. A tentative agreement has been reached with NEA Jurupa for the 2018-19 school year. The full tentative agreement is included in the supporting documents, but we also have highlights to review with you. It includes a 2.5 salary increase, a 1% off schedule payment, an increase to the health and welfare contribution from $9,500 to $11,150, an update to the elementary minimum day language, collaboration time for psychologists, mental health specialists, behavior specialists, and speech and language pathologists. NEA Jurupa has not yet ratified the tentative agreement, but current law, Government Code Section 3547.5, requires that the district disclose major provisions of the collective bargaining agreement at a public meeting prior to the final approval by the governing board. Additionally, the Riverside County Office of Education requires receipt of disclosure information 10 days prior to any board action on the proposed agreement. These requirements are being met at this time. A completed copy of the disclosure of the collective bargaining agreement is also included with the backup materials. The board will be asked to approve the tentative agreement with NEA Jurupa at its regularly scheduled meeting on October 1st, 2018.
Thank you, Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you.
5C, consider nominations for California School Boards Association Directors at Large, Asian, Pacific Islander, and Hispanic. Mr. Duchamp.
That was most of the agenda item. If the board wishes to nominate anybody for either of those two positions, the nominations must begin with 2 letters of recommendation by September 28th. These individuals serve at the state level board of directors for California School Boards Association. So if you wish to make nominations, obviously, or not, you have to have the permission of the person, because I believe it's a fairly large job, and you may submit them to CSBA.
Okay, thank you. 5D, other administrative reports and written communications. Mr. Ducharme.
There are none at this time.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Chard?
Yes. If we're going to make a nomination, we don't have another board meeting before the 28th of September on the issue back. Do we have anyone?
Yeah, I don't think we've had, I think
We don't have anyone.
Unless you have
I mean,
someone.
I don't
I
know
don't
if
have
any-
anyone. I don't know anybody there, so,
You're not, are you interested?
no.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because
Okay.
we don't have another
Yeah.
meeting. I'm sure it is.
If you do and it comes up, this is normally not something that you do by a formal vote, you do it by consensus, and you could submit that nomination, I believe. I think actually any member
I
can
think so,
submit
yeah.
a nomination. It's just you would have to help the person with 2 letters of recommendation.
Right. So usually, any school board member can nominate anyone, so it wouldn't have to be the board here.
I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
either
No, it wouldn't
any
have-
of our,
No.
I don't qualify for it, so. But we have board members that do.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking.
All right.
Thank you.
On to item Roman numeral 1, public hearing session. Hold public hearing session on public textbook and instructional materials sufficiency program. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Ed Code 60119 specifies that governing boards of a school district are required to hold a public hearing on pupil textbook and instructional material compliance. The public notice was placed at the Ed Center and all school sites and on the district website since August 24th. At this time, the president should formally open and close the public hearing on pupil textbook and instructional materials sufficiency program.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing on pupil textbook and instructional materials sufficiency program. Anyone from the public have any comments? Like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that hearing. On to the action session. Item A, approve and adopt routine action items by consent. Yeah, please refresh your screen. I'll make a motion.
Second.
A second by Mrs. Chard. Any comments or questions? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. I'm sorry about that. Mrs. Bradford, motion passes 3-0-1. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that, Ms. Bradford. Said, my apologies. Okay. Item B, consider actual revenue and expenditures for 2017/2018. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. In June, we brought the 2018-19 adopted budget for your approval. At that time, the 2017-18 revenue and expenditures were estimated. Now that we've closed the books for 2017-18, the actual revenues and expenditures have been finalized and are being presented for your approval. Unrestricted and restricted revenue adjustments resulted in an overall revenue decrease of $247,000. On the expenditure side, both unrestricted and restricted expenditures decreased by $3.9 million. A list of the unrestricted and restricted ending balances are provided in your annotations, so you have a breakdown of those balances. The unrestricted and restricted 2017-18 ending balance and the 2018-19 beginning balances will now be adjusted accordingly. Turning to the other funds, so outside of our general fund, there are also differences between estimated ending balances and the unaudited actual balances. The total other funds difference is $12.5 million, which is a result of budgeted building projects that will continue into the 2018-2019 school year. Administration recommends that the board certify the 2017-18 actual revenue and expenditures, and that the Form 01 and other fund reports, which are included in the backup materials, be filed with the Riverside County Office of Education.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Chard, second by Ms. Ortega. Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Ms. Bradford.
Is H&W Health and Welfare?
Yes,
Thank you.
H&W is Health and Welfare.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item C, adopt resolution number 2019/06, authorize the final expenditure of the Education Protection Account entitlement for 2017-2018. Mrs. Ford.
As an annual requirement of the Prop 30 tax initiative that was approved by the voters, school districts are required by board approval to determine how the monies received through the EPA or the Education Protection Account are spent in a public meeting. Prop 30 language states the funds may not be used for administrative salaries or other administrative costs. Final 2017-2018 EPA funds of $25.3 million have been received. The EPA funds were all spent entirely on classroom teacher instructional salaries. Administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2019/06, authorize the final expenditures of the Education Protection Account entitlement for 2017-2018.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard, second by Mrs. Bradford. Any questions or comments? So this is the last of the Prop 30 money.
It continues. This one continues.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Ford. Any other questions, comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Item D, adopt resolution number 2019/07, appropriations limit to Article 13-B of the California State Constitution, the GAN limit. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. This one goes even farther back than Prop 30. In 1979, California voters enacted Proposition 4, referred to as the GAN limit, requiring all public agencies to compute an annual appropriations limit based on a formula provided by the state. The limit changes each year and is calculated using the district's reported average daily attendance and a statewide factor. At this time last year, the board approved the calculation based on estimated revenue and pupil attendance. The district is required to submit a recalculation for 2017-18 based on actual figures, as well as an estimated calculation for 2018-19 based on budget projections. It is important to note that the limits do not impact the amount of money the district may spend. The 2017-18 appropriations limit was recalculated from the estimated $127.4 million to the actual limit of $126.9 million. For 2018-19, the estimated appropriations limit is $131.5 million. A copy of the resolution and calculations are included in your backup materials. Administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2019/07, appropriation limits for 2017, 2018, and 2018, 2019.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard,
Second.
second by Ms. Ortega. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Item E, adopt resolution number 2019/08, clearing of beginning balances adjustment account. Mrs. Ford.
This resolution authorizes the differences in the unrestricted, restricted, and all other funds that were mentioned earlier this evening to be brought into the 2018-2019 budget. Now that the books are closed, we have the unaudited actual ending balances for 2017-18, which become the beginning balance for 2018-19. A total difference of $16.2 million, the ending balances of all funds, will be brought into the beginning balance. Administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2019/08, clearing of beginning balances adjustment account.
So moved.
Second.
Is that Ms. Ortega? Motion by Ms. Ortega, second by Ms. Chard. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 4-0. Item F, adopt resolution number 2019/09, authorize the superintendent to accept all interests in real property. Dr. Hanson.
Yes, this item satisfies Government Code 27281, requiring the board to adopt a resolution for the superintendent to accept interest in real property. In this case, the real property is a temporary construction easement leading to Troth Elementary, from Troth Elementary to Sky Country for sewer services. Administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2019/09, authorizing the superintendent to accept all interest in real property on behalf of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bradford,
Second.
second by Ms. Ortega. Any questions or comments? I have a question, Dr. Hanson. So these properties at Troth, these are private properties, homeowners?
That is correct. Two separate homeowners or private properties, so the easement will run down their property lines. And so this allows us to take, not ownership, but interest in that property so that we can construct the sewer line.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I have a question.
Mrs. Bradford.
In here, it says it's owned by the Misioneros. Is that then an individual?
No, that's a,
It's a church.
it's a church, yes.
But didn't you just say that the properties were owned by individuals?
Well, they're two separate, they're private properties.
Okay, so it doesn't make any difference in, okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. On to item G. Adopt resolution number 2019/10, sufficiency of pupil textbooks and instructional materials for 2018-2019. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. This is an annual resolution certifying that we have sufficient pupil textbooks and instructional materials. I can tell you unequivocally that we do, and that as in past years, the county has come out and performed an inspection to the point where they actually go into classrooms at chosen schools and print out class lists and count books and make sure that every single student has it. And once again, we passed with no issues whatsoever. All of our students have the resources that they need, so we recommend that you adopt Resolution 2019/10, sufficiency of pupil textbooks and instructional materials for 2018-19.
Thank you, Mr. Dombrowski.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard,
Second.
second by Ms. Ortega. Any questions or comments? All right, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Item H, adopt at a second reading ordinance number 2019/01, ordinance of the Board of Education for the Jurupa Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District number 16 of the Jurupa Unified School District, authorizing the levy of special tax within territory annexed into Community Facilities District number 16. Mrs. Ford.
As a final,
Motion by Mrs. Chard,
As a second reading order, move to approve.
second by Mrs. Bradford. Got lucky, Paul, I had to read it all. So, any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Item I, approve personnel matters. First one, ratify memorandum of understanding with CSEA, Jurupa 392. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. A memorandum of understanding has been reached with CSEA, Chapter 392, for the 2018-19 school year. Highlights of the MOU include the 2.5% salary increase, the ongoing increase to health and welfare cap of $9,500, and this should be $11,150. I'm going to correct. Okay, sorry. We're waiting for, because of the Me Too, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So it's 1074 at this reading, and as soon as we get to ratification with NEAJ, then the Me Too will kick in and it'll go to the 11,000 level. A one-time off-schedule payment of 0.5%, a one-time distribution of $1,800 per health and welfare eligible full-time unit member, prorated for classified employees who work less than 8 hours per day in the 2018-19 school year from the classified health and welfare pool. It should be noted, the collecting bargaining agreement with CSEA, Jurupa, Chapter 392, includes a Me Too provision, which requires that their unit members receive the same increases provided to other units. In the event that an agreement with another bargaining unit is ratified and includes increases that exceed those in this MOU, CSEA, Jurupa, Chapter 392, unit members would receive the additional increase in accordance with that provision. A copy of this MOU is in your supporting documents. CSEA did ratify the MOU on August 22nd, 2018. And of course, all of the same government codes that we reviewed earlier apply to this as well.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Elzig. Motion by Mrs. Chard,
Second.
second by Ms. Ortega. Questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. I2, approve the employment contract of the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel Services. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. The employment contract for the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel Services is included in the supporting documents. The employment contract is consistent with the contracts of other assistant superintendents in our district. Highlights of the contract include establishing the salary at the amount of the average salaries of the assistant superintendents in our benchmark districts as defined by Board Policy 4341. Health and welfare contribution will be the same amount as all other employees of the district receive. A monthly car allowance of $600 and payment of yearly dues to the Association of California School Administrators. Administration recommends approval of the employment contract of the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel.
Thanks, Ms.
So moved.
Elzig. Motion by Mr. Ortega. Second by Mrs. Bradford. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Final item, J, board member committee reports or additional comments. Start with you, Ms. Ortega.
Oh, goodness, where do we begin? There's so much from here to next time that we see each other, but first I'll start off by kind of giving a report on I went to Stanford University on a full scholarship for a policy institute this past weekend in Stanford, obviously. And it was a really beautiful experience to see so many board members from all over California get together and see how policy is being innovated for the implementation part on students who are learning a different language than English or Spanish for the English learners. And to see how, again, policy is not only written for just that, for it to be implemented. It was a really nice experience to be in a room in a policy, and it was a policy institute for 2 days, and out of all places there in Stanford, and how they were able to host that event in remembrance of, again, education, how important education is to our students and to our state of California. So that was a really nice experience to live. And thankful for NALEO, National Association of Latinos Elected of Latinos, who gave me the full scholarship to attend, and looking forward to getting more involved with that. Second, we have speaking of a lot bilingual education, there's going to be a CABE meeting on the 12th of September in Riverside, so hoping I can attend that. Then I also got invited to be a part of a panelist of leaders and voices in minority, and I think a few of local board members, and one of them will be a RCC trustee that will be speaking on education and how important it is for us to have, again, those conversations on minorities, how these minorities are becoming majority now, and how we as leaders need to have those conversations. So I'm looking forward to that. As well, on that same day, the 18th, we have a CTE meeting here in Jurupa. Rivera Pace was kind enough to send us all that information for career technical education, and that's pretty nice meeting or agenda that they have going on there for CTE. And then we have that same week, Congress Takana will be coming to Jurupa Valley for a town hall, hoping I can make that as well. And last but not least, something that was approved today in today's agenda was a conference that I will be attending early October, and that's California Latino School Board Association. And again, just getting more involved in the process of local government and learning how we can really be a change here in our local government and then ripple to our higher government in Washington and Sacramento. So I'm very privileged to be a young voice, a young leader for our community. And again, as always, I say I'm a product of this district and being able to represent our board in these important events. I'm very honored and privileged. So I think that's it. And somehow I will try to fit in to attend some of the sports that our students are going to be very, very involved and dedicate a lot of sweat and love into. So somehow I'll make it. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Mrs. Bradford.
I also forgot to add a couple of things. Going to Del Sol, it was absolutely gorgeous for the ribbon cutting, and I look forward to the day when our other schools are so equipped. Let's see. And I was at Mariloma Middle School last week, and it was a really interesting experience because our son had helped set up that school, and when they were discussing how old it was, it really made me feel old to think, I had a teenager that helped haul in books and desks and chairs, and I'm proud of it too, by the way. Let's see. This afternoon was the charitable giving committee meeting, and for those of you who might be interested, you too, as a community member, employee, or other interested person, may donate to the JUSD charitable group. Let's see. We have the CTE committee coming up, and I'd like to comment on something else that we had. It was a board governance meeting, seminar, practicum for the district administration and our board, where we learned more effective ways of communicating with each other and the public upon whom we depend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Mrs. Chart.
Well, first I did forget a couple of things. I wanted to congratulate Olga on her new position at Rivercrest. I know that she's going to do a wonderful job. She's been at several different positions in our district, and each one she's made her presence known and has done a wonderful job there. Also, I attended the disaster preparedness that my colleagues attended also, and my husband went with me, and he was very impressed. He thought they have a really good plan. The things that they told everyone were very useful to everyone there. We got a lot of little information sheets, and that was really good. Some of the information on there was things that I really didn't know, even though I've been through the schools and watched how the disaster preparedness has been. And him, as being a former fireman, he said that it was really laid out very well for the public to get them up to date on things. It's too bad more people didn't show up. It wasn't full, but being a Saturday, I'm sure they were probably participating with their children in activities. Also, let's see, we have coming up the state of Jurupa Valley, which is very interesting to go to. I've attended the last few years, and it really gives us insight as to the people who run our city, as well as how the community works with the schools and the schools work with them on different activities. Some of the things is the food fest that's coming up that benefits our schools. That's on the 29th of September, and that will benefit the scholarship programs at each of our high schools. And the kids are the ones that really go there and work. They go and set up everything. So they're working for something that they hope they can participate in eventually. And that includes some of our organizations at the schools. So if you get a chance to go and you haven't ever been before, there's a lot of really good restaurants that provide food for you at the cost of $20. You can taste and eat as much as you want and drink as much as you want. Also, let's see, I was trying to think what else. My mind's not working tonight for some reason. Can't think of anything else that's coming up. The committees that I'm on have not set up their new meeting times, so I will report on those as those come along. I'm sitting on the DAC meeting, the District Advisory Committee, and we usually don't meet till about November, so. Can't think of anything else right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. Thank you for mentioning the Food Fest, Mrs. Chard. I know we've been doing that, I don't know, Elliot, for how long? 17 years, I think?
17 years.
It's a collaboration between the Lions Club and the Rotary, and it really is a great event, as Mrs. Chard mentioned, and you should get out on that. It's always the last Saturday of September. I also want to mention tomorrow at the VFW, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Actually, we used to do it at 5:45, September 11th. I have a ceremony. I think this year they're going to do it at 6 a.m., so I'd like to invite everybody out there if you want to get up a little early. And there's a little ceremony. Usually, sometimes there'll be a singer. A lot of folks are there, the mayor, city council members. So we've been doing that for a while now, so I'd like to invite everybody out to that. And I want to thank Mrs. Bradford for her inspirational piece. I think that was really fitting, and I appreciate you thinking of that. It's such an important event. Yes.
I was afraid I was going to sob my way through that, but I thought, you know what, in public it's okay to let people see that there are things that are that powerful that should be experienced as a group.
Absolutely. You know, when September 11th happened, it was, and maybe I've said this before, but I'll say it again, I think it's worth repeating. I think we all came together as a country. Everybody in this country came together, and we were all Americans. And I think, at least in my lifetime, probably the most united that we've ever been. And today, it's a different story. We're a lot more divided, again, in my lifetime than I think we've ever been. And I think these events, this little video that Mrs. Bradford put together, and also September 11th activities, I think it's a good opportunity for us to all come together and be proud to be American and celebrate those, our heroes. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, go ahead.
I don't want us to just focus as Americans. This is something that involved the whole world. I have a lot of friends who live out of the country, and so many people sent email saying, I'm so sorry, even though I have the sister of a friend who was killed. But it's something that drew all the world together, not just Americans.
Absolutely right. Yes. Okay. Mr. Dabrowski, I really want to thank you and your team for the guidance, this guidance counselor presentation you gave us today. I think it's certainly a step in the right direction. I think we look forward to seeing the progress there. And then back to school nights. I had an opportunity to go to Mission Middle and see the computers, technology being implemented there. Also, every time I go to back to school nights or school visits, I see that teachers have flexibility with some of the apps that they use. And not every teacher uses the same app. They use whatever works for them, and we have these tech fests. And so it's good to see that. Mission Bell was the other one I went to recently, and it's coming along nicely, Dr. Hansen. So there was another shade structure, I think, installed this last week. So I'm looking forward to that. I know the teachers there are anxious for that to be completed, and it's going to look really great. I mean, it looks just like the conceptual drawings that we had. And that's all I have for tonight. Mr. Deshawn, any final comments? All right, well, thank you all for coming. Meeting adjourned.